Hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Seidelmann, and I'm here doing a Facebook Live, and maybe I'll just give a few minutes to see if anybody's going to come. But I wanted to talk about how to recover from criticism, creative criticism towards your work. I've encountered this a lot as a writer, and I was just going to say, I see a few people are watching. If you're here, if you would put in the comments if you're feeling bold, where you're from, and just to pop in and say hello. So through the years, I've endured. That makes it sound like it was some horrible thing. Well, at times it has been horrible. Creative criticism for my writing, sometimes for my decisions, professional decisions. And I think that we all face this if we're out there in the world collaborating with other humans trying to create things, whether it's a book, like in my case, I'm an author, or whether, hey, Jennifer Brady, so glad you're here. Or whether it's something else. When I was having discussion earlier, somebody was talking about their sculptures being rejected and criticized for whatever reason. Hey, Betsy. And if you're going to be a creative and you want to make great things, the key is that you are going to have to show them to other people. You are going to have to put it out there in the world. And when you do that, and especially if you ask for feedback, you're going to get it. And sometimes it might not be, it might not all be positive. And so I just want to talk about how to walk through that. And so the topic came fresh to my mind because just this week I decided to hit the send button on, oh my goodness, my alarm is going off to remind me to do this Facebook Live. I'm going to go turn that off really quick. I'm trying, I just don't want to be distracted by the noise. Eek! So this week I decided to have the courage to hit send on this young adult fiction I've been working on for a couple of years now, on and off. And it's just to the point where I knew I couldn't work on it any further. So I sent it to my agent, and she sent it to her top children's young adult fiction, person. And basically they were like, no, this doesn't work for us, but you're welcome to go seek representation for it elsewhere. And they gave me some feedback about why it didn't work. And hey, Wendy, hey, Jennifer, April, so good to see you guys. And I've been through this rodeo before. I've had things criticized and rejected over and over and over again, and feedback given. And so I knew, I didn't need to fall into my bed weeping immediately. I kind of just saw the email, went, because after you've been working on something for so long and working with other people, trying to make it as good as it can possibly be, it hurts, to hear that it's not, our dream is that somebody goes, this is magnificent, we can't wait to publish it, and takes it away, and runs with it. But in this case, that wasn't the case. And so I kind of took a deep breath, and it wasn't probably until a day later that I had time to process it. And that's what I want to share with you, my process of how I kind of deal with these criticisms. Because I think, first of all, if we let these criticisms, this alarm keeps going on, if we let these criticisms stop us, or we take to our sick beds as a result of these criticisms, and stop making art and stop writing or stop doing whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you've been criticized for the way you run a retreat or the way you do something at work. This is really for all those things. So the first thing that I do is I feel my feelings. Step number one, feel your feelings. So we can't subvert this or pretend that we don't feel bad. The day that I got the bad news that they were going to reject the book was, that day I really didn't have time to emote. It sounds really bad for doing the job, but it was a very, very busy day. And it wasn't until the next day when I sat with myself and I actually did some drumming. And many of you who know me know, I do shamanic journeying, and I visit with my spirit animal, Alice, who's an elephant. I sat down with Alice and was just like, oh, what am I supposed to do about this? They don't like the book. And that's when I sat with her and could feel her love and compassion, that's when I kind of cried for a little bit. You know, I wasn't like a complete puddle, because I also realized, yeah, this has happened to me before, but I let my emotions come. So step one is, don't like subvert the grief, let it come, and it's okay. You know, cry, do whatever you need to do to let that go. Blow it into a stick, bury it in the ground, whatever method you have for feeling your feelings and processing them. The second thing is to ask yourself, when you're ready, you might not be ready. The first time I got a major criticism for writing, it took me months to get beyond from step one into step two. So I basically spent 3 months feeling my feelings, which were a lot of feelings. You can ask my friends, who were all like, whew, that was a tough fall for us when we had to be with Sarah. Step two is, when you're ready and you felt your feelings, is to ask yourself, why might I be getting this feedback? Like, is there anything truthful about what this person or this group of people has said about this work? Is there some strange reason I could imagine why I'm getting this particular unique kind of feedback? And how could it be trying to help me? Like, to imagine that the universe is always trying to help you. And so if the universe is trying to help me with this feedback, you know, what is it? And as I sat with the feedback that I got this week, one of the things they said was, I don't have the words with me, but it was like, this is a book for young adult fiction, right? And so trying to make that voice as authentic as I can for a young teenage girl who's about to graduate from college. And the feedback was that this doesn't even sound like a kid. It sounds like an adult or something. And I was just like, oh man. But then I thought, well, that's very specific. And maybe I need to read some more YA fiction myself and see what is the difference between the voice. And maybe that's true, or maybe it isn't. But maybe it's something I need to explore. And so sometimes criticism is there because it actually is something that's going to help us improve the project and make it better. And we just have to have the willingness and the humility. Ooh, dog, that one's a tough one sometimes for all of us, because I'll just speak for myself, we want everybody to be like, yay, this is, we love what she makes, it's so great. But it's like, sometimes the criticism there is to help us. Another part of the criticism that I got on this one, and again, this is on step two, asking, how is this here to help me possibly? If it's mean and trolly criticism or feedback, it is not there to help you. So just absolutely ignore that. But if there's something there that rings true, one of the other things that they said is, because this YA fiction that I'm writing is about a girl who goes and seeks an unusual healing from a shamanic practitioner, or a shamanic healer, basically a shaman in another country, who gives her a plant medicine to heal her. So using what we might call, in this culture, might call psychedelic to heal her. And they said, yeah, I don't think the school libraries will be really interested in buying this. It's like, as I've been working on this project, I was thinking, geez, this might be problematic. Like, what parent would buy their child a book about, seeking a sacred healing from a shaman in another country? But nevertheless, I persisted, not worrying about that. So they have a point. Like, maybe I have a major marketing problem here. And, do I want this book to sell? And is that what I want out of it? Or what is my purpose? And so it just causes me to think more carefully about, well, what am I doing here? Why am I doing it? Etc. So that's step two, is just to ask, why is this criticism coming? And how might it be here to help me if I'm curious? And then the third thing is, as quickly as you can, find a safe way to start over, to start up again, to work on either that project, or maybe you feel like setting that one aside for a while until you get more clarity about it and doing something else. And you guys, after processing my feeling, embracing, looking for what the universe, how it might be trying to help me, this criticism, this morning I got a wonderful new idea for another book. Somewhat related, but would be a book for adults, which could be, a good idea that kind of excites me. So what I want to say here is that if we really face our criticism and we sort of process it in a mature way, you may be rewarded with more ideas and more creativity. And I want to see, I'm just seeing I don't know if anybody has any questions or any comments on that, or maybe what's happened to them. And I'm just trying to scroll through the comments to see if I can do this. Oh, Jane Asher saying, thank you for your wisdom. Oh, you're so welcome. It's so good to be here. And somebody's saying, I might buy my child that book. Yes, like I keep thinking, like, if all of us, like so many people I know who are the major people that I see in retreats are between the ages of, like, let's say 20 and 60 or 70. It's like we're all fascinated with these sacred ceremonies and these rituals that are ancient. And so why wouldn't it be the case that there would be teens who are also, you know? So thank you for that encouragement. I may end up self-publishing it and just giving it as a gift, like, hey, for anybody who's curious, you know, because I think it has a message in it for teens too that I think is hopeful. So yeah. And I'm just open to any questions that you guys have or challenges that, you know, as it relates to professional criticism or creative criticism or anything, or any other topic that I normally talk about, which is many topics. I'm happy to answer questions. Or maybe if you have tried any of these steps and how they have helped you. Somebody was saying earlier, because I was having a conversation about this, that Liz Gilbert was just on a podcast with Martha Beck, or somewhere they were talking anyway. And Liz Gilbert said she keeps all of her rejection letters because they are really special to her and dear to her. And if you ever are really feeling down by criticism, another technique that is really delicious is to go online and read other people's rejection letters, especially ones like, I think J.K. Rowling had some really funny ones. I mean, they were like, there are no children who are interested in learning about, like, owls and magic and this and that about her first draft for Harry Potter. And, you know, you just realize that not everybody is meant to get your idea. But all we need is one person to get our idea. And that's only if you're interested in publishing traditionally. You know, if you are just want to get your work out in the world, you always have the option to self-publish, and then you don't really need anybody's approval. And that's what I did with my first book, What the Walrus Knows, is I didn't collaborate. Eventually, I learned that I did want to collaborate more, because what I find is the more kind of feedback you can get and the more input you can get, sometimes that really helps to improve the product, and you learn, and it's a joy to collaborate with other people. So that can be a fun part of the process. Okay, I'm reading. Sorry, I skipped these comments. Okay. Angie's saying, that's exactly my problem. I feel like everything has to be perfect before I start again. So I create a mess, so that keeps me from starting and finishing. Oh, yeah. I totally get this. Yeah, so getting stuck in the mess. Like sometimes it's like an artful mess, like the room gets so messy and we kind of need a clean space to work from. And perfectionism is such a devil. I tell you, that is probably one of the worst ones. And I think just to know that as an artist, as a writer, as a creative human being, it is normal to feel like it is never good enough. It is never quite finished. You could always do a little bit more to make it a little bit better. But at the same time, if we don't ship it, we will also get, I think, we'll get frustrated and bored, and then we'll never take action on it. I took an art class the other night with a wonderful painter, Adam Swanson, who's local to our town. And it was so awesome what he was saying. We had 2 hours to do this painting of a hummingbird. I wish I had it with here to show you, but he basically said, as we were moving along, he's like, the key is, like, when we started sketching out the bird, he's like, keep your pencil moving, keep moving, keep moving. Like, don't stop, don't stress, don't think about it too much, just keep the pencil moving. And as we move through the painting, he's like, don't get into the fine brush. You can use the fine brush a little bit, like for the eye and maybe for a few things, and then put it down, get the big brush up, keep moving. Like, you don't have time to make a tiny painting that's perfect and that's, you know, going to take forever. He's like, you could be sitting here in 7 years and still not have finished that painting if you do the tiny brush, which I think is kind of a metaphor for perfectionism. But, you know, what can you do now that feels pretty darn good, and you know, get it out in the world so it can be experienced? So just knowing that you're never going to be absolutely perfectly happy with your product at the end of the day, because you'll always see where it can be better. And that's what you get to do the next time around. Hat Kelly, thanks for being here. Hat saying, when I was making cold calls as a hospital chaplain, I was rejected all the time. And I would respond well and ask, is tomorrow a better time? And almost always they said yes. I love that. Like, not taking it personally, just, and especially in those situations, because you never know, like, what's going on with the people that you're encountering. Oh, that's a beautiful way. Like, is tomorrow a better time? I love that, Hat. Let's see. Do you see a difference between rejection and editing? Yes, great point. So rejection is when people are just like, yeah, this whole thing doesn't work for us. And this is only happening because I've offered it to an agent who is interested in, maybe selling the book, and they don't think it's marketable in its current state. So that's what is kind of, I would call that a rejection. Rejection also is like when you get it on Amazon. I have on Amazon, if you go to read Born to Freak, you'll see there's like a 0-star, or is it a 1-star review there that basically says this, completely rips me to shreds. It's kind of a trolly review of the book. I would say that's an example of rejection. Or somebody who tells you, and I remember getting this feedback, you're not ready to write a book, or you're not ready to do whatever it is. Like, you're not ready to teach a yoga class on your own. Whatever the rejection is that you've gotten, that's kind of rejection. Editing is when people are giving you constructive criticism, and constructive criticism, and I would say what I got was actually a combination of those, because they explain some of the things that might need fixing, like the voice. Constructive criticism, or what we might call helpful criticism, my friend Anna Kunicki defines as criticism or editing is when it excites you to go back to the project and improve it. Like, you recognize some truth. So somebody suggests that you edit something. Like, if you remove this paragraph, this part of the story is much clearer. And you go, oh my God, yes, I didn't know what was wrong with it. Now I know. That's kind of like having a helpful editor. So yeah, thank you, Hat, for that question. Tanya Marie is saying, one way I was taught how to deal with rejection as a professionally trained actress was to do the audition, put my work out there, and then not tie myself to the outcome. Once I let go of the attachment to the outcome, I'm free to keep creating. Yes, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Like, not worrying whether you get the role, playing all out. Like, I just got an opportunity to show people my acting chops today and to explore this character. Whether I get it or not, I've had the opportunity to share my creative gift with this group of people. I think that's awesome. And I think ultimately that's why we do all of our art, is that it's for the joy of creating. And I realized when I was writing my book, Swimming with Elephants, the highest joy of writing that book were in the moments when I phoned a friend to confirm some detail about something, or the moment when one of my good friends read the first draft and was like, this is so fascinating and I can't stop reading it. Like, that was so much more important to me than when Kirkus Reviews or somebody else said anything about it. Like, we do this. One of the other beautiful things I heard an artist say is, who was that who said that recently? Work to make gifts that you give to people. And if you work like that, that each thing that you're creating is just a gift that you're offering to the universe, to God, whoever you want, or to this, actually to a person, a special person you're thinking of as you're writing or as you're creating. If you do that, like, you will enjoy the process. And no matter what the outcome is, even if the person never receives the gift or the person doesn't want the gift, at least, you had the moment of being able to feel that feeling of generosity. Jennifer's saying, oh yes, I like to think of my work as a record of the moment in which I am publishing it. Thinking of my writing as a continuous process that represents what I'm doing at a particular moment, not like a final finite product. Very inspiring. Thanks, Sarah. Yes. Absolutely. Like, I love Liz Gilbert has a saying that she's like, as she, I think she was talking about, when she's writing, it's like, you never know, like, I think she was making an analogy between life and writing. Like, you never know when a plot twist is going to come. And just being curious about your process. And if you want to finish something and publish something, which I think is an important part of a creative career, if you want to share your work and you want to finish something, that's where you're going to have to come to a certain point and realize it's done enough. You know, it's at a point where I feel like I don't have the energy anymore to keep working on it, and I have revisited it, I have edited, I have done everything I can to make this as good as it can possibly be, and I'm ready to let it go. And that can feel a little like death to those of us who are creative. So you might need to mourn that process. I mean, not too much, because we want you to keep, you know, going, but that can be tricky. So you might need friends to help you with that, or maybe if you have a spirit animal, you could ask them, like, how do I know when something is done? And usually for me, it's kind of a feeling of, I've done my due diligence, I've, you know, gotten all this feedback, I've incorporated that feedback, and I'm just at a point now where I need some input. I need input again. And so I need to know where I'm at, and from the perspective of another person. And then of course you are always the arbiter of what that feedback is, because this is your project. And I was, you know, which depending on who you're working with on it, it may be difficult. In my book, Swimming with Elephants, for example, I had a moment where they sent the edited thing back to me, and I realized they had removed every single swear word. I was like, why did you do that? And they're like, well, that's just our policy. Like, we don't use excessive swearing. And I'm like, well, excessive, sure, but I don't think it's gratuitous. It, you know, it all had important meaning. And I had to fight for those. I won't even say the word because it'll probably get this video taken down, but I had to fight for those words, those salty words that were so important to me. So it's ultimately your project, your creation, so you get to decide. Stacey Andon saying, I love Brene Brown's wisdom about not listening to those who aren't in the arena, being vulnerable along with you. Discernment with feedback. Yeah. Yes. So sometimes our loved ones, out of wanting to protect us, wanting to keep us from harm's way, will try to stop us from being vulnerable or from sharing our work. So, or people who are not yet creating and want to be, sometimes that can happen as kind of a shadow element of that person. So they will discourage you and your work. That can happen. I kind of put that in like the naysayers kind of category. But really the only people you want to be seeking advice for are people that you see are also out there taking risks, you know, who are, I think Teddy Roosevelt is the quote that Brene Brown uses, like, are they in the arena with blood and sweat and tears fighting it out, you know, facing their own lions and tigers and bears? And if they're not, you may want to just like take very lightly whatever they say. You guys, this has been so awesome. Thank you for all your beautiful input, because I know all your comments, people are going to read these and they are going to help other people. So thank you so much. And I'm cheering you on in everything you do. And I'm really grateful for your presence. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope you keep persisting no matter what. Okay, bye all.